Today I'm making a tote bag from an old pair of shorts. The shorts are pretty stiff, they're 100% cotton and the perfect size for a tote bag. I'm going to start by seam ripping the waistband, removing the belt loops, the button and the zip fly. I need to remove the button up detail seam part from the bottom and all the seams in the crotch area. The side seams around the pockets. I'm reserving the back pockets though, just removing the front ones. Basically, rip out everything that makes this look like a short. Here we have our front right piece of the short. It has the buttonhole on the left and the pocket was previously at the right. I have removed the button hem, so now it has grown in length a bit. Here's a left back piece that has a pocket. Initially, I wanted to remove the pocket because keeping the pocket would make my bag look like it was made from a short and I just didn't want that look. However, removing the pocket was a bit complicated, so I convinced myself that the tote bag would anyways look good, with or without a pocket. And pockets are functional, so no need to put in extra effort of removing the pockets. Now I'm placing the two front pieces together. I'm going to stitch them straight by overlapping some of the crotch area part so that our entire piece is nice and straight. At the sides, our bag has inclined lines because of removing the pockets. Now I can't just cut that part straight down because then my bag would be less wide. So instead I took some of the part of the pockets that I had seam ripped and placed them like so on the corners of the bag to make the bag more wide. Now I know I didn't want this bag to look like it was made out of shorts and the front corners just look like pockets. To make the corners look a lot less like pockets, the waistband, which would now be our belt for the bag, would be stitched right near the pockets in a way that when I hold the bag, the belt line kind of runs parallel to the inclined line along the pockets. I placed the front pieces right sides together and stitched along a line that is just near the end of the previous crotch area. Then I placed the pocket parts and top stitched along the inclined line. I zigzag stitched everything. Let's look at the back parts now. The back parts are much wider and longer. I placed them both right sides together, then placed my folded front piece on them. You can see how much extra fabric the back pieces have. Anyways, I pinned along the front piece boundary. I would stitch along this line so as to stitch my back pieces together. Then I cut the extra fabric from the left to make my front and back pieces to be equally wide. My back pieces are stitched. I placed the back and the front parts over each other now. Now I'm going to cut the top of the both parts in a straight line and the bottom of the both parts in a straight line too. There's no need for this inner fabric, so I'm just gonna cut it. At this point, we have with us two perfectly rectangular pieces that make up the front and the back part of our bag. We have to stitch the front and the back pieces together at the sides, but before that I have to make two small squares for both the bottom corners. These squares are there to give a base to your bag. Mine are 2.5 inches in length. You can choose a larger size or a smaller one, but they should be square. With the front and back pieces placed right sides together, I marked my bottom squares. Then I marked where I want to stitch the two pieces at the sides and I stitched along the pins. I cut along the bottom square, leaving some seam allowance, and I also needed to stitch the bottom part. I forgot that bit, but I went ahead and I stitched the bottom part. Then I cut the other square. Now here's the interesting part. You take one of the squares, say the right bottom one, you hold the top left corner and the bottom right corner of the square and try to open the square up a bit, and then you make the bottom left corner and the top right corner to meet, so you have like a diagonal of the square, and you pin this diagonal that you've created at the open sides. This diagonal and your side seams and the bottom seam line should meet at exactly 90 degrees. Do the same procedure on the other side and then stitch along the pinned edges. Once you stitch it, you would realize that now you have a base for the bag. So the bottom of a bag is ready now. Flip it inside out because you were working on the wrong sides till now. Hemming the top of the bag is left, which I did just by folding some fabric over and zigzag stitching over it. At this point, I decided to do some embroidery on my tote bag. Embroidery would definitely make my bag look more fancy and less upcycly. It would look like it was a limited edition item purchased from an upscale clothing brand shop rather than looking like a noob DIY. So I turned to Pinterest for some inspo and drew a design for my embroidery. The embroidery is done. Now I have to make the belt for the bag. I'm taking my waistband and I'm gonna hem the raw edges by folding them in twice and zigzag stitching over it. After cutting the waistband into two pieces, I placed one piece of the waistband on the front part of the bag with the ends of the piece right next to the inclined front corners, and I stitched over it. I stitched the other piece's ends onto the back part in the similar way. I had some of these button thingies left over from the short and thought of attaching them on the bag. So I stitched the strap on the back part and stitched the button on the front part. Now the button would go through the buttonhole and the bag would be closed. On the better day, I would have attached a zip, but that requires a skill set that I do not possess yet. We have to deal with a less secure option for now. And with that, the bag is ready. I hope you like this. Thanks for watching. Bye.